He's lowercase is also because he perceives himself as a lowercase person. But I really wanted to, with Will, I wanted to show somebody he's been diagnosed, he's on medication, he has had depression for a while and known about it, and it's just living with it. But it's not a big issue to him. It's just something he knows that he has to deal with. Because I think, especially in our literature, there have been a lot of books, and some of them quite wonderful books, about discovering it, being diagnosed with it, going to a center for it, beginning of treatment for it. But very rarely do we follow up and sort of show those characters 3 or 4 years later when it's just something they're living with. And I think my Will, that is essential to his being, that it is something he's grappling with it, and he has a sense of humor about it, and he's angry about it, but at the same time knows that the anger is sort of pointless because it's something he has to live with. So very much that was key to my conception of his character from the get-go.
Yeah. And his relationship with his mother was also really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about the arc, the development of, because when we first meet lowercase Will, he doesn't talk to his mother, he's very shut off from her, and things change.
Yeah, like many teenagers, he and his mother are in the same boat. Dad left a while ago, we never really know when, and I think it's really to show them very much in the same boat, like to use that metaphor, as time-worn as it is, that they're being battered on all sides, and there is a solidarity between them, even when he's sort of disparaging her. Hopefully, it's very clear, at least to me, that he still loves her very much and would do anything for her, and I think he has to articulate that a little bit more for himself as the story goes by, and I don't want to sort of give anything away, but I think he's so much used to being solitary and used to her supporting him, that at some point he has to actually look down and see her supporting him. And I think that does happen in the book.
Yeah, and John, your Will has a very wonderful relationship with his parents. And I, as a parent myself, he actually listens to his parents when they tell him what he should study for college, where he should go to college.
Well, which
is that
bad.
Is that a fairy tale?
No, I don't think it is a fairy tale. I think a lot of people listen to their parents when they tell them what they should study in college, but I think that's a mistake on the part of both the parents and the kids usually. Although, sometimes it's not. I looked down into the eyes of my infant son when he was 3 days old, and I said to him, I hope you are a doctor. It's very hard not to have aspirations for your children. It's very hard. It is an act of, I think, you don't recognize this, teenagers in the audience, but every single moment that your parents aren't telling you what to do, it is so hard for them. Because they do know. And they are right. Not all the time, but often. And it's extremely hard to let your kids make their own decisions, make their mistakes, go through life. That's very difficult, and I wanted to think about how difficult that is in a functional family. I wanted this to be a very functional family, but there's that. I don't think it's giving anything away to say that there's a moment in about maybe midway through the book where Will Grayson says to his dad, "What if I don't want to go to that program, that pre-med program at Northwestern?" And Will Grayson's dad says, "Well, then I won't love you anymore." Which is very narrowly based on my experience with my own parents, which was always, we love you very much, and as long as you work hard and stay ambitious and are extremely successful, we will continue to love you. And I'm sure that they weren't being, sincere, but message received.
This explains so much.
No, I always thought that, my dad said, you don't have to be the best at everything, but you have to be the best at what you do. And I don't know, I think that was helpful. It was, I needed some therapy, but I guess, I really, I admire that about my dad a lot, that he wasn't willing to compromise with me, even when I was an incredibly poor student. And I think that's what it was about. I was a very poor student. I was a D student for, in the latter part of middle school and beginning of high school, and I think that my parents kind of decided that was not acceptable.
Interesting. So I'm sure they were delighted when you told them that you wanted to be a starving writer.
Well, that's the thing, though. They were amazingly supportive. They just said as long as you work hard, that's all.
Well, I'm sure they're very proud of you now.
Yeah, I mean, so they say. I don't know. I still feel like I have to do more.
He gave them a grandchild. They're really proud.
Yeah. I know. Seriously, everything I ever did was nothing compared to Henry.
Well, you could have done that at 14.
I know. I actually said that to my mom. Don't.
We do not advocate.
No. If you ever think that you want a baby, I want you to do something for a week. I want you to set your alarm to go off every 2 hours, and then I want you to stay awake for 30 minutes. But not just stay awake, stay awake playing a tape that does this. For 30 minutes, then go to bed for an hour and a half and wake up and do that over and over and over again for a week. And then if you still want a baby, then you need to get therapy.
Breeders are so funny.
I know. Thank you for controlling population growth.
All right, so that segues into my next and perhaps obvious question for anyone who's read this book, but what's the importance for both of you of writing grounded gay characters?
I mean, I think it's important to do rounded any characters, but I mean, I think for me, with my first book, Boy Meets Boy, it was that teen literature especially, but literature in general as well, sort of had this huge like misery index for gay characters.
Mm-hmm.
That like at first you had to die, then you could live, but your dog had to die, which is really strange. I mean, seriously, there were 3 or 4 books published in the 70s where the character came out and simultaneously his dog was hit by a car. Very strange. And then finally we got to a point sort of in the early 2000s where the reward for the gay characters is you can be an outsider and you'll find 1 or 2 other outsiders to sit with you at lunch and you can be gloomy and outsiderish together because the world is against you, but at least you have a friend. And that just wasn't really real to me. And so I very much wanted to blow that up and wrote Boy Meets Boy partially because I just wanted a dippy, happy gay romance because a lot of gay kids have dippy, happy romances. And from that, it just sort of, then the reaction to that made me realize that this was such an underrepresented area to discuss and explore that I just wanted to discuss and explore it. And so the cool thing is that after a certain point, the characters did have to be well-rounded and they did have to really justify their being, and you couldn't just have a simple coming out story. You really had to go to the intricate ways. Like Milo Grayson is a really interesting character to me because he knows he's gay, he's fine with it, he doesn't fight against it. At all. And he's not really worried about what other people think about that or anything else. But at the same time, he is kind of keeping it to himself, more because he doesn't want his business to be the world's business, and it's not really because he's gay, he just wants to be himself. He's a private person.
Yeah, he feels that way about a lot of other things besides sexuality.
Right. And so, again, the arc that I wanted him to have was I wanted him to, again, break out of that shell he had put himself into. And that was not a story I'd necessarily read before. So he's one sort of example, but then again, you have Tiny Cooper, who is has a totally different experience with his life and his sexuality.
Yeah, I just wanted to write as true a story as I could about a friendship between not only a gay guy and a straight guy, but between someone who wants to, suck the marrow out of life and someone who wants to keep his head down and try to make it through. And I think I found both of those tensions interesting. And I wanted Tiny Cooper to be a well-rounded character because otherwise it's no fun to read.
Well, he could have easily devolved into kind of a very flamboyant stereotype.
Yeah, I was definitely conscious of that and worried about it. I wanted to say, I guess in a way, that what I like about Tiny, hopefully, is that he's apathetic to the stereotype. He does like musicals, but he also plays football, and so he just doesn't. If it's stereotypically gay to like something that he likes, then that's fine, and if it's not, then that's fine too. And I really wanted him to be that way. I wanted him to be, it's okay to like Madonna, and it's okay to like Madonna if you're straight. I love Madonna.